Ron, thanks for joining us at the Casper Star-Tribune today. You're running for treasurer of the state of Wyoming, and we'll get right into it. What do you consider to be the most important part of the treasurer's job?
The most important thing is protecting the safety of the funds, the Permanent Mineral Trust Fund, and trying to get good returns is a secondary issue, but the main thing is having a safe controls over the funds.
Kind of along those lines, talk about your previous experience managing money.
I had experience even in commodity trading for several years. I did get into that for several years, and I've traded the stock a lot longer. And as far as actually managing money, I mainly just manage my own money, not other people's money. So
How do you think that experience would translate to the treasurer's job?
it translates in giving you an understanding of risks. For example, I bought options on Mattel many years ago, and they had some inaccurate information out, and there was a lawsuit by shareholders, and the shareholders actually recovered money from Mattel. But as an option holder, I wasn't considered part of the suit, and so I did take a loss, on that. So through personal experiences, you understand what the risks are of certain things.
Membership of the State Loan and Investment Board is part of this role as treasurer, and an important one. Have you been following the work of SLIB lately? What have you thought about some of their recent actions? Anything you like, anything you disapprove of?
I've actually gone up to the third floor of the Hirschler building and looked at the minutes of the State Loan and Investment Board, and I personally don't care for the idea of giving private corporations money, that it appears to be unnecessary. Like in the case of Magpul, the gun manufacturer that is moving to Cheyenne, they had already decided, because of the way voting had occurred in Colorado against the Second Amendment, in their opinion, they had announced that they were leaving the state. So the state loan and investment board gives them $13 million. Indirectly, they give it to the county and the city, and then the county and city give it or spend it. But maybe they would have gone to Nebraska. Maybe somebody else would have offered them money. But even though you can't know for sure what would have happened if the money wasn't there, it seemed like the wrong thing to do. Somebody could have been invited to take that property with good advertising and say, hey, there's two railroads that actually meet right here, and do you need those railroads? And then get a business to move in there based on that. Well, Magpul, if they wanted to live in Cheyenne, they could have put their plant out by EchoStar, which is about 2 or 3 miles east of Cheyenne. There's places along the Union Pacific Railroad track there that probably are a lot cheaper, and there's a lot of empty land there. So, and there's other places in Wyoming too that they might have gone to. But I just feel with it, the state shouldn't be in that business, even though I know that it's legal and the voters voted for it a few years back. I voted against it, but I feel the grants should be for improving infrastructure, sewers, water lines, sidewalks, things of that nature.
Speaking about grants and loans that come through SLIB, talk about ones that have perhaps a recapture provision. Where would you see the money go in cases like those?
I would have to study that more, but in some cases you would think that if a certain county recaptured $5 million from something going on in their county or one of their towns, that the money should possibly go back to that county and town because they did something right that resulted in them getting a return on it. So I would be inclined to look at a possibility of trying to keep the money in that general geographic area.
Okay. Besides SLIB, what would you say is the most powerful organization or group that you would sit on in the state as treasurer?
That would be hard to say. There's a state land board, and if there's making a property exchange, that can be a difficult job too, depending on how you look at the value of what you're getting versus what you're giving away if you're exchanging properties rather than just money for property. That you have to look at it that way. So I'd say maybe that would be a difficult one.
Okay. Just kind of switching gears a little bit. How critical do you think it is for the state treasurer to have an office inside of the state capitol?
I never gave it any thought. I've known that the state treasurer has been there forever, possibly, and it's convenient for the public. If somebody's needing to find the state treasurer, they know where to go, while if they put the state treasurer in another building, somebody that wasn't familiar with that would have to lose some time and possibly not find the state treasurer if they didn't get good directions. And so I would be inclined to say that they should stay in the Capitol building. The state treasurer should be in there.
Okay.
But
talking a little bit about your competition, is there something that Mark Gordon has done or is doing as treasurer that inspired you to run for his job?
One thing, I'm not going to say he's responsible for what the Federal Reserve does. He's not. But it's a culture there of constantly printing money, and it's supposed to be an independent organization, but it seems like they basically give the federal government all the money that they want. And so I'm saying that is one thing that bothers me a little bit, but also there's statutes that he's never changed that I feel could be changed.
Such as?
For example, they have the traditional assets and alternative assets. And by federal law, you're required to have people that manage traditional assets like Microsoft or General Electric, you buy in stock on the New York Stock Exchange. They're required to be registered under the Investor Company Act of 1940, sometimes called the Investor Advisor Act of 1940. And here, to me, alternative assets are a little more risky, and what the statute says, only that those that manage alternative assets do not have to be registered under the 1940 Act. Instead of putting any requirement, you would think, to me, that they should have the same requirement as someone trading traditional stocks. See, the state law was required to have that in there for the traditional stocks because that's a federal requirement. But the state could have put that requirement onto the alternative asset managers too. And I think it's kind of a poor example of how to do things just to give somebody the open enrollment, so to speak, on being an alternative asset manager.
Okay.
There's other things in that too. I mean, like what had bothered me for years and is still there. In the statute that says the prospective investment managers need to submit audited financial statements done by an independent entity. That's fine. But what does it say about somebody that you actually given the money to? It just says, well, they should make quarterly reports. And there's never another mention of the word auditing. And see, because I was an auditor for several years, that kind of was something I didn't like, how that was too loose there, that there should be some clear requirement for auditing after each year or some other time period.
Okay. Kind of to wrap things up, in a statement to the voters, why you? Why are you the right person for this job?
There are probably 100 or 1,000 people that could do the job, but they don't feel that there's any problem in that office, and so they didn't run, or they're busy doing other things. And I have kept up with what goes on there, and having worked under the state treasurer back in 1989, I do have a little bit of contact or ways of finding out a few of the things that go on there that other people maybe never seem to pay much attention to. And I would just say that I've always been good at math, and the fact that I've had a lot of auditing experience helps me be qualified for that. And for several years I was a patent agent, so I'm able to easily look at written law and try, I can understand it. But it's, that's about it, I'd say, yeah.
Okay. Ron, thanks for joining us today. Take care and best of luck.
Oh, thanks a lot now. I appreciated your time.